Alrighty. So today I'm going to analyze Colby Mehman's form. So Colby is a former Division I athlete, ran at Stephen F. Austin, currently resides in Boulder, Colorado. Some of you may know him as the van runner. This guy really trains hard, puts everything he has into everything he does. He's been battling some running injuries lately, so he reached out to us at RunLab, specifically Colby Mehman, who's at our main gait specialist, and myself to kind of analyze his form and get to the root cause of his injuries. So let's go ahead and delve right into this. From this front view, looking at a few key things here. So let's go ahead and first take a look at his foot strike kind of side by side. Oh, that's the one from the back. All right. So if I'm looking at his foot strike here on the right side, kind of just bringing attention to the foot here, you can see that his foot is a little bit more flat, even though there's this kind of cord in the way. You can see that he's not landing on the outside or the pinky toe as exaggerated on the right side as he is compared on the left side. And so that's what we would call an inversion angle. So let me kind of go forward, let this person's hand get out of the way, and we'll probably see a better shot here in a second. Okay, that one's really good. And then over here, that one's really good. So again, more flat, landing more in the middle of the foot, not in that supinate position. So as you can see over here on the left side, all of Colby's body weight right now is on his pinky toe. And what happens if he lands on that pinky toe? Well, as he goes into internal rotation, as he goes into pronation, that distance that his leg has to travel into internal rotation is greater. And that might not be harmful in one step, but imagine if there's 1,609 meters in a mile, about a meter per step, at least 800 to 1,600 steps per mile. That's a lot of repetitive strain, having to control that higher inversion angle on that left side. So that's going to be the big first thing that we see is the foot control at contact. So that's going to cue us to continue to look for other things on that left side possibly. And what we can see, and we'll get a better angle from the back, is you can see his posture here on each leg. So if we look at his right leg over here, if I were to draw a line kind of from his head or from his shoulder, you can really see that his shoulder is directly over his foot on that left side or on that right side. Whereas over here on this left side, you can see that he's starting to lean over to the left. So his shoulder isn't over his leg, and you can kind of see that his core is starting to dive in on that left side. So we're kind of already seeing some hip and some postural distortions on that left side, and you can see the cascade of effects that it leads to all the way down to the foot control at contact on that left side. So now we have two things going on. We have the high inversion angle on the left, and we also have a lack of hip and spinal stability on that left side. So let's go ahead and just continue to watch. Okay, that's another thing right here. I'm going to go ahead and get it to each respective side. So continuing with the gait abnormalities here. If we were to draw a line down from the middle of Colby's belly button here, so that's his belly button, that's a 90-degree line. And if we pull from his belly button here, 90-degree line, you can really see that in addition to the high inversion angle on the left foot, in addition to the lack of hip stability and postural spinal stability on the left side, we have what is called a crossover step. So Colby is crossing over that midline, and he's putting a eccentric potentiation on that glute medius, on that glute maximus, and on all the external rotators. So he's having a lot of lack of just coordination in general on that left side, and that repetitive strain is going to go in the foot, through the shin, all the way up through his hamstring, and to that glute and into that low back on that left side. So that's what we refer to as a crossover step. And we want to run with that nice wider stance width. So you can even see how on this right side, there's a lot of light in between the legs. On this left side, not a lot of light going on there. So really crossing over that midline. And let's go ahead and just continue to watch these videos here together, see if we see anything else from the front. Pushing off pretty well. Legs are going forward. Sagittal plane, nothing too abnormal there. Minor crossover right here on this step on the right. Oh, no, he's pretty clear there. So what that shows us then, if he's not crossing over in the front, we can see the left leg is behind the right leg. So continuing on with the cascade of gait abnormalities or gait limitations on Colby's left side, he doesn't push off in the sagittal plane. He doesn't get extension in the sagittal plane on that left leg. So rather than his leg pointing forward, his leg is actually pointing out to the side. And so now that the right leg is blocking the left leg, well, now he's going to have to get a torque or a parabola force to bring that left leg around the right leg. So it pushed off at an abnormal angle into the frontal plane, and now he's going to get an abnormal transverse movement through that left leg. And it started at extension. And as we could already see, he's getting that crossover step on the left. He's also getting that high inversion angle. So we can see that it actually is going to start with the acceptance of the load here. So the lack of posture stability that leads to this extension, not in the sagittal plane, but pointing in the frontal plane. And that force, that motion, that lack of extension leads all the way through swing back to initial contact. So just a lot going on that left side in general from the front. So let's go ahead and look at the videos from the side. He's wearing his jacket here. You know, you got to warm up well and take it off halfway through. That's how they do it these days. Anyways, and then he's got to take off the gloves. Okay. So what we're looking for from the side, as you kind of maybe have seen in another video, we'll kind of go ahead and go one more step since he just took off the gloves there. So first, we're going to be looking at initial contact. So where is the foot landing in relation to the knee and in relation to the hip here? Colby has really good initial contact mechanics here on this left side, so not another limitation there. Let's go ahead and check out this right side. And then also has very good initial contact knee flexion on the right side. So he's not overstriding. He's looking pretty good in terms of where his foot's landing in relation to his knee and in relation to his hip. What other things do we see here from the side? So one of the things we can already see is going to be the rotation. You might have already seen, if you kind of look up at his arm carriage, you can see how this left arm is coming back a lot further than this right arm. And let's go ahead and rewind it a step to kind of get the full story here of what's going on. So arm carriage, when you pull the arm back into extension, what you're trying to do is you're trying to activate what's called the posterior oblique sling. So him pulling his arm back, his left arm, activates the left latissimus dorsi. And the left latissimus dorsi is connected fascially through an anatomy train to the right glute maximus. So the left lat and the right glute work together to create hip extension. And then as we can see here, again on the right side, right arm isn't coming as far back. So he's not getting as much engagement through the right lat compared to this left side. And then let's look at the extension itself through the hip bilaterally. And as we can see, kind of similar to my video, we can see that Colby has limited hip extension on the right side, and he has a lot of hip extension on the left side. So using the glute max to pull the leg back. However, we've already seen it from the front that he has abnormal posture mechanics and he has abnormal hip mechanics in terms of stability. We're going to see that more evidently from the back. That lack of stability actually shows us it's not that the glute is more active on the left side in extension. What it's actually showing us is that Colby is lacking the amortization phase of the gait cycle, or the elasticity in his muscles and his tendons to absorb or efficiently transfer the ground reaction force from load acceptance to propulsion energy. So if you don't efficiently absorb load because you're unstable right here as you go from contact through loading response to mid stance, if you're inefficient there, well, that means you're going to be inefficient as you push off. You're not going to get the full benefits of the elastic properties in your tendons and in your muscles. And that's actually what we're seeing with Colby on from the side on this. On. So we saw the arm go back. We've seen the hip extension. Let's go ahead and look at Colby's mechanics through mid stance here bilaterally. So mid stance is when all your body weight is on one leg. You've compressed your center of mass to the lowest point it's going to be during the gait cycle. And typically what we're seeing or looking for here is about 40 to 45 degrees of hip flex or of knee flexion, and Colby's doing a good job on each side, kind of getting into that range. The big red flag, which we've already seen from the front and from the side now, is the asymmetry. So we would want to work on getting his body a little bit more symmetrical in terms of load acceptance through mid stance there. The other thing that's not as intuitive to see, and then I need to pull someone else up so that we can kind of see an example of what's going on here. So he's running a little bit faster than I would like for you guys to see right now. Looks like I misplaced the 8 mile per hour, so we're going to go ahead and roll with this one. So big thing here through mid stance is going to be, let me kind of go to another step that's a little bit better timing. Okay. The position of the hip right here, or the center of mass, over the foot. So if we look at Colby on the left, you can see that when he's in mid stance, or when all his weight is on one leg, his center of mass, or his hips and his spine and his rib cage and his shoulders and his cranium, his skull. So a lot of his body weight, a lot of his mass isn't over his foot. So what he is doing is he is putting a lot of strain through the back of his leg. So a lot of eccentric strain through the quadricep, as the quadricep is lengthened out with the center of mass behind it during load acceptance. And then a lot of concentric contraction through the superficial back line, or the hamstring and the calf right here. A lot of tension concentrically or shortening right there because he's not over his foot completely during this part of the gait cycle. And this is a good example of what it should look like right here. This is proper timing. This is with the body over the foot right there. And then that, right, again, is going to lead to the cascade of effects kind of after it. Other than that, he's lacking a little bit of a lean. You can see the difference between the two runners here as well. So that's part of the reason, and that's a little bit better step from Colby as he starts to get going a little bit more there. But then he starts to go back behind it. So just kind of looking at how consistent it is or how intermittent it is. But he wants to bring the hip forward over his foot. So he doesn't want to sit down further because that's going to push his hip back more if he just squats down. What he wants to do is he wants to lean forward at the ankle. That's how he's going to get the lean forward, and that's how he's going to get his hips to move forward. And so what do I mean by leaning at the ankle? Well, if we look at this dorsiflexion angle here of the foot, so if I draw it from the outside, bottom of the foot, through the middle of the ankle, the knee, and then I'm going to go the same thing here on this runner, you can see that closed angle right here of that foot, 9 degrees versus 15 degrees of dorsiflexion. This runner here on the right side is just leaning at the ankle, and that's going to facilitate a lot more efficient mechanics during load acceptance and then during propulsion as well. So let's go ahead and bring up Colby's videos from the back. And this will kind of tie everything together for the most part. So you can already start to see that lack of good posture here on that side. I think they straightened it out, but then they kind of got rid of his upper body, so not ideal for us. But right here, right when Colby is on his left side, nothing inherently wrong with kind of leaning side to side. That is actually the spinal engine. We'll get a little bit more in depth on what that is in a later video. However, the head isn't over the foot and the shoulder isn't over the foot as well. So again, he's just getting this kind of crashing in. He's getting this not over the foot, just way outside. And then he's getting the associated hip drop across here. So if I were to draw from one side of his pelvis to the other, we typically want to see that be about 4 to 5 degrees. And Colby Mehman here is at about 10 degrees of hip drop. Whereas on the right side, we can start to see that he's a little bit more up over that foot there. Not really getting that crashing angle. And so that is really going to be a lot of it is really just going to be this hip drop here on the left side. So if I kind of zoom in on the right side and go across, like I was saying, not really getting that same pelvic drop here across, just about 2 to 3 degrees on that right side, looking a lot more stable. So that was the hip mechanics and the posture mechanics. Let's go ahead and take a look at his feet as he starts to push off here. So he pushes off. Boom, right there. Little bit of heel whipping, and then also getting some heel whipping as well. So this is not forward and back in the sagittal plane. He's getting a lateral, or this is a medial heel whip is what we would refer to this as. And so what this is implying is that he's not using his glutes effectively. He's not creating the appropriate stiffness in his ankle and his big toe to keep everything moving forward in the sagittal plane. So he's getting some torque and some pulling force rather than getting just a nice push from the extension that is created from the glute and from the lats and the hamstrings. Can really see the pronation as well, the rapid pronation on that left side right there, crashing in, not staying neutral. kind of crashing in past that midline, not staying in this heel, back of the heel, not staying in line with the Achilles and the calf. Client doesn't have any, or Colby doesn't have any structural abnormalities either in terms of like tibial varus or valgus knees. So we would expect it, right, to be more neutral. So right over here can really just kind of draw that line up the back of his right heel. He's really doing a good job of keeping that heel on the ground all the way to the hip there. Doing a pretty good job. Whereas over here, right, can't even really draw that straight line through the middle of the leg or through the middle of the glute. So really just crashing in a little bit more than we would like on that left side. So in summary, this client has a lot, or Colby has a lot of instability on the left side. He has it in the glute. He has it in his low back. He has it along the spine. He has it in the calf and in the shin. What he needs to do is he really needs to start to focus on foam rolling out his entire left side. And then after and the reason for that is he doesn't want to just continue to move because he's already compensating. He's already has layers and layers of compensation movement patterns. So what he needs to do is he needs to break up the fascial adhesions, break up the tension, and then create new movement patterns. So once he breaks up the tense state, he wants to create a new tension state with the proper posture and the proper mechanics. He also is going to want to work on foam rolling out. So that's mainly the back of his left leg. He's going to want to focus on foam rolling the front of his right leg, so his hip and his quad, because, right, it is getting less extension, and then it's going to go forward there more. And then his right shoulder and right lat, because he's not getting as much extension through that right arm. So he's going to also want to make sure that area is nice and foam rolled. And then he's going to want to work on getting more extension on the right side, so with his right arm and with his right leg. And he's going to want to work on being more stable on his left side. So that's going to be it for Colby Mehman's gait analysis. I hope you guys got something out of it that you can apply to your own running form on your journey to happier and healthier running. If you're interested in getting a gait analysis done on yourself, you can go ahead and please visit www.runlabaustin.com, where you'll work with one of the sports medicine gait specialists or physical therapists or chiropractors. We're all gait experts, and you'll get a 14-page movement analysis profile report outlining your limitations. And then you'll also get a video very similar to this of one of the gait specialists going over your gait mechanics. And then you'll start to also get homework exercises to start to fix and work on those limitations. And that's where the fun really starts, is when you can start to work on making yourself more efficient. And that's just, again, lead to happier, healthier, faster, lifelong, enjoyable running. Thank you guys for watching.